BBC Radio Cumbria Sport.
Yeah, how are we all doing? It's evenings on BBC Radio Cumbria. We've got Darren Milby coming up a bit later on to take you through until 10 o'clock. For the next hour, though, we're talking sport with me, Paul Newton. The former Carlisle United midfielder Chris Lumsden also joins me in the studio. But our special guest tonight is joining us from Australia, still a massively popular figure in the county. And here's some of the reasons why.
Plenty up for Carlisle United. It is a good delivery as well.
Oh,
it's in! It's
Michael
in!
Bridges!
Carlisle have equalised, and it's Michael Bridges. The ball on the ground. Adam Murray is the forward runner. Now Michael Bridges, one-on-one. He's round the keeper, and yeah! Michael Bridges. That could be a beautiful pass, and that is an absolute beauty. What a goal! Out the top draw. Michael Bridges, lovely control, and he smashed that ball past the keeper. What a goal that is. Bally left side of the penalty area. Bridges in the middle. Cross comes. It's Michael Bridges! What a finish by Michael Bridges.
Holmes, square to Bridges. Bridges going in. Right foot! Oh, what a goal! What a beautiful goal by Michael Bridges. What a goal that was!
Oh, nice play by Michael Bridges. Bridges drifting in. Shot! That is a goal out of the top draw. Michael Bridges attacked the defenders, drifted round one, drifted past another into the penalty area, and a left foot shot from all of 12 yards. That a goal out the top draw. Solo effort, Michael Bridges.
Yeah, one of the most popular players of Carlisle United's recent history, of course, former Leeds United, Sunderland and Hull City striker as well, joining us from his home in Australia, where he's now a resident. Of course, Australia, like everywhere else globally, affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Michael Bridges, good evening, how are you?
Yeah, great to be on, lads. Thank you for having me.
Of course, these days, fondly remembered in this part of the world for your time with Carlisle United. How good are your memories of your spell with the club?
Oh, fantastic memories. Any team you go to where you have success, you always going to remember that and put it in high regard. But it was the way it came about because starting off your career playing at the top end, and Leeds United, we had a cracking team. We had a cracking dressing room with a really good mentality, and injury struck. So going down the divisions to actually find your love of the game again. I was never going to play at the top level due to the lack of pace, but I still had a footballing brain. I still had unfinished business, and I wanted to play. And I learned a valuable lesson in football through a guy called Mick McCarthy, who got us promoted for Sunderland from the Championship to the Premier League. And it was probably the first time I'd come across a manager that had been honest with us. And he said, listen, you're not going to play next season. When we get promoted, I'm going to bring in 3 or 4 players. You can hang around, pick your money up, and sit here. You might get opportunities through injuries or suspensions. You're not a bad egg. You'll not disrupt the dressing room, or you can move on. And I'd wasted 2 years, 3 years with injury. And I said to him, listen, I really appreciate your honesty. I'm going to move on. Went to Bristol City. And after 6 to 8 weeks, Tinian, the manager, had gone. Due to results, he brought in 6 players. And a guy called Gary Johnson came in, and straight away, it just didn't get on. Could not stand the arrogance of the man, and was hating my time down there. And Lummy rang us at the perfect time and said, listen, do you fancy Carlisle? And I was like, back in the northeast. He said, yeah, that ticks the box. Lummy's there. A couple of the other lads we used to know, Paul Arneson from college. And I thought, you know what it is, let's go. But Lummy spoke very highly about Simo and the dressing room feel that they had there. And it just materialised into what it was. And we went on, like you said, just to have a cracking season. Front part was getting busier and busier as the weeks went by. And it was, I'll never forget the game against Notts County. Scored a little looping volley over the goalkeeper, and the place just went absolutely mental. So that they've got us a lot of results up there. And I've got very fond memories because of the dressing room, the people that were there in and around the club. It was a very family-orientated club. I used to talk. Lummy will tell you, I can talk underwater, and I love talking to people and asking how they are. And it was just that was a proper family club where everybody was in it and everybody wanted to go in the right direction. And it's something that I'll always remember. And every time I try to get back to the UK, I will try to get over there to watch the games or to go and say hi to people.
I think you need to give yourself some credit as well, which I didn't like doing. But, when I told people you were coming in and we had a chance of signing you, the lads in the dressing room, a lot of them hadn't played with someone, who they had watched on the TV. We had a lot of young lads in, Kieran Westwood. A lot of people hadn't played with the calibre of player that was walking through the door, and I think they probably thought, what's this lad going to be like? But, I wasn't worried about that. I told Simo not to worry about it, and as you see, you walked in, first day, nothing, no airs or graces or anything like that, and embraced it, and everyone embraced you as well, and that's what made it happen. And as you say, you've seen the work ethic going on, and you've seen how everyone was together, and you decided, right, I'll put a shift in. Not all the time. I might just win you the game in the last minute when you've done nothing, but that's fair enough. You got us a promotion bonus that way. So, it all worked out, didn't it?
No, I did, mate. I appreciate that. Like you say, when you come into the dressing room, you expect, like I was saying, they could have thought, oh, Billy Big Time's coming in, and it's always tough. And it was, it's a feeling for me. How are the boys going to feel about me coming in? You're going to have lads that's positions you're taking. And I didn't get that at all. I knew everybody knew their role, they knew their position. I mean, I remember there was Derek Holmes and Glenn Murray were the two strikers playing behind me and Carl, and it was Carl, if one of us was injured or suspended, they would come in or they'd come on and change the game. And, look what Muzzer's gone on to do with Brighton in the Premier League and how he waited his turn. So, everybody had their part to play, Lummy, and you'd been there before, you'd done it, you had to go down the divisions. And when we found our love of the game again, it was the camaraderie and the banter. If you're not enjoying, it's like I talk about this when I have serious conversations, which it's not very often that happens, Lovey. But you talk about businesses and people. If you are not enjoying your job, you are not going to go into that job and perform on a day-to-day basis. You're going to go through the motions. You're going to look for excuses to get on social media while you're meant to be working and stuff like that. If you're enjoying your life off the park, and you're enjoying it when you go on the park because of that camaraderie. And like you say, I was very surprised at how professional Carlisle was. And I think Peter Murphy, the captain, was one of the catalysts behind that. Simo set the rules and regulations, but Murph really embraced it and took it on board with making sure everybody had the protein shakes, took the tablets that we were doing and made sure people were doing the core exercises. And I was like, bloody hell, this is fantastic. So it was just spreading professionalism, and that's what got me back enjoying the game and actually played some of the best football I'd played in my career. Yeah,
there's always a debate up here: the Northampton goal volley or the Chester goal when you dribble past a few players. I think I know what you got. I know you got the award for the Northampton goal at the Player of the Year seasons, but I think I know which favourite yours was.
Well, do you know what it is? The two of them stand out, right? One of them stands out as a Chester goal because that for me is the one that is my, when you pick the ball up and drift past a few players and do a scissors with the straight legs. I couldn't believe that when you've got straight legs like me, how you can drop a shoulder and do a leg over, a step over. Players actually fall for that. You should be like the little nimble, I look like the blooming a gazelle or a giraffe running with a ball, mate. But I fooled them. And I scored the goal. That was a special moment. But the Northampton goal for me, the reason that stands out is because of the thing that happened with you beforehand, because you won a header just before that and you got knocked out. The ball fell to me and I just took a knee and, did my little loop and volley into the far corner. And it was a special goal. It meant so much because that was a big, big result. But it was actually the funniest part was turning around to you and you going, what's happened? What's the score? Oh, we're winning. Where am I? And honestly, it was one of the. You didn't have a clue, mate. You were knocked out, and I was like, "Lummy, you've just missed a worldie goal, lad." You were like, "Who scored?" I was like, "Me." No, you didn't.
I remember honestly dazed for a few seconds, and then Simo was like saying, "Are you all right? You all right?" And I was just going, what? I thought it was 0-0. He went for 2-0 up, just sit in the middle of the park, and just see it out. I was like, 2-0 against Northampton, second top, Friday night. We're going to Sunderland Dogs tomorrow. This is going to be a great weekend. So I want to take you back to Peter Reid. Now, you broke on the scene as a 16, 17-year-old. Now, this is the thing about Peter Reid. Good bloke. If you were in his good books, he was the best manager to play for ever. You were a 16, 17-year-old, basically won him games, done well for him, got him up, part of a team that got him up, and just never clicked between you and him, did it? It was just something not there. And I think when it all ended, it was when you were really sticking by your guns, weren't you? And you wanted that move away, even though I remember in Marbella, he was offering you a contract one morning next to the pool, and you nearly succumbed to it. But thankfully, Joe Bridges, your dad, came on the phone and put him straight.
He saved us. No, it was funny. I mean, really gave us me chance. Really was. I look back and I see Reid as an unbelievable motivator for players that are coming through. If you can handle and get around the swear words at half time when he absolutely annihilates you, but he would say things that would make you feel $1 million, and he would motivate you. And he gave us my chance, mate. So I hold him in the highest regard for that, and we've actually become better friends after football. It's incredible when you're working in the media and you see him in different parts around the world in Qatar, and I thought, oh God, there's the gaffer. Is he still going to hate us? And he actually said, "How you doing, Bridgie lad?" And it broke the ice. He's not your gaffer anymore. You know what I mean? I used to be scared stiff of him. But like you say, that relationship, I think it was because I was a young lad. I was coming through. I wasn't the toughest player. I was thin, I was lean, I was fragile, and I think really enjoyed a real hard man as well, like a bit of a grafter. I brought him that flair and the energy, but I just don't think I was hard enough for his style of play. He loved to brace well, or you would get stuck in. People like that, Kevin Ball, he loved a bally. So I don't think I fitted into his mould of play, but like you say, he saw there was something in us, and he played us. But when it came to the end of the time, I was playing second fiddle to Niall Quinn and Kevin Phillips, who were on such a good role. I mean, we just stood and watched them and admired them for what they were. And me and Danny Diccio, again, knew our place. I was like Glenn Murray and Derek Holmes. We waited for our opportunities to come into that team and get a chance if there was suspensions or injuries. And it got to the point where I knew there was a few clubs looking, and we got promoted back to the Premier League that year. Like you say, the club took us away to Marbella, and I got carried away, mate. I was drinking blooming champagne and beer like it was going out of fashion because it was free. And I think what had happened, which I look back on, and it's not too. There was a contract offer, we talked about it over there. Now, when you've had 6 champagnes and 3 bottles of beer, you're going to say yes to anything. Do you know what I mean? He could have offered us a dog's dinner for a day, and I would have said yes. And thankfully, Quinn came on. He said, "Listen, Bridgie, get yourself away. Go and speak to your dad in the bedroom. You don't need to sort about contracts now. We're on holiday. That'll take care of itself." And I went back, and obviously I spoke to my dad, and he said, "Sober up, give us a call back." And I did, and I got the next flight out of there, and the rest was history, really, because obviously Sunderland, I'd spoke to Sunderland and said, "Listen, I'm not going to sign. I've obviously upset Peter because I said I would, but this is what happened. This is what transpired. I didn't like how it was done," and my father, like you say, was just bang against what went on. And the move was inevitable after that. We got left, me and I think it was Alan Johnson.
Yeah, it was I.
He also got left behind from the pre-season tour to Denmark, so we were training with the youth team while you all went over on pre-season tour. So it was inevitable that we were going to get sold at some point, and that's when the Leeds United deal came through. And I knew they were looking the year before, so it wasn't a bad ending. But I mean, I just wish it had have ended a bit better. I could have probably had another year or two at Sunderland, but mate, I'm a big believer in fate, and things happen for a reason.
Yeah, and that Leeds spell, you wouldn't have. I think that was the best thing to go and do. That play with them young lads who have all gone through and made a career playing them European nights and all that, and you hit the ground running as well. I think was a hat-trick against Everton. I know you scored against Newcastle because we were calling you. You came back to the Stadium of Light and scored as well, and on the verge of an England call-up, weren't you? Or practically there.
Yeah, it was a cracking time. I've got to say, it was funny when I signed for Leeds United, because I think it might have even been Mark Maley was at Sunderland with us.
Yeah.
And I don't think was it you that was staying at my house on the Sunday morning? Leeds were playing Man U on the Sunday afternoon after we did a Saturday night in Whitley Bay.
No, that was Maley and Convery.
There we go. That's who it was. You trying to hide? You were obviously tucked up in bed. And I'll never forget watching the Leeds United team on the Sunday afternoon, and I'm going, "Wow, what a team that is!" Look. And me and you, we used to play against the likes of Harry Kewell, Ian Hart for the Sunderland youth team, and we just couldn't beat them. No. They had a crack. They won everything. That group of young lads, Alan Smith, Woodgate, Robinson, and to actually watch them on a Sunday morning, then 5 months later you're actually signing for that team. I was like, my word, it's incredible. But they had Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and I remember walking in. David O'Leary was, welcome to the club. Peter Reid shaking hands, doing the deal. And I just said, "Listen, it's just I'm delighted to be here. I know it's a young and up and coming team. You bought a few players, Danny Mills and Dewberry before me, and I'm just looking forward to getting started." And O'Leary said, "Well, you better hurry up and get fit," because I was carrying a little bit of, even though I was called the stick man, I was carrying a bit of timber because I'd lost my way in pre-season. And he said, "We're going to get you fit because we're selling Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and you're going to be our number 9." And I kid you not, I crapped myself. I didn't know what to do. I was thinking, what? You know, I've been playing reserve football for Sunderland, and now I'm going to be playing starting for Leeds. And something happened with my game in training. I don't know what it was. I was playing with players that were on a different level to me. I mean, Harry Kewell, the things that he could do were sensational. Lee Bowyer, just the fitness levels of these lads. And my game went to a whole new level when I was playing with these lads, and I got myself fit, Lummy. And like you say, that season, I just felt like every time I walked on that pitch, I was going to score a goal, because I knew this team would create me at least 10 chances a game. And if you can't score with 10 chances, there's something wrong. So I was blessed to be given the opportunity to play with such a good group of players at the time that spent the money correctly and wisely. And it was just it was very similar to what we had at Carlisle. There was the banter there in the dressing room. There was the camaraderie off the park, and it just felt, all the lads lived in a similar area. It just felt so right. And again, it comes back to that thing: if there's not any cliques in the dressing rooms, you're going to have success.
I remember coming down to see you, and I said, "Where am I going here?" And Weatherby, and he said, "Just turn into this cul-de-sac and look for all the paintball marks on the houses." So I went into this cul-de-sac, and a few of the lads lived there, didn't there? Was it Bowyer, a few others, and they all bought paintball guns, and you just seen all these splats of paint on the lads' houses all around. I went, well, that's one of the Leeds players, that's one of the Leeds players, and that's one of the Leeds players there.
Well, do you know where that all started, right? I had a next-door neighbour called Charles and Diana. How funny is that, right? That Charles and Diana, he had 12 doves in his back garden in this little, like, dove aviary or whatever they had, and he used to let them out and let them fly around the bloody estate. And what they would do, they would land on my roof and they would crap everywhere. So what Charles did, he threw me a tennis ball over the fence, and he said, "Michael, whenever the birds are on your roof, just throw this at them, you know." So I said, and he said, "Just scatter them." So yeah. So anyway, Charles went away for 2 weeks on holiday, and this day the doves were out, and I thought, I've got to get my paintball gun out. So I started hitting the pellets on the roof of my house so that they would splat, and then they would splat paint all over these doves. Well, they were like green, luminous yellow and all this, and me and my mate were laughing in the back garden. And all of a sudden, this I was thinking, why are the doves actually out? He's on holiday. And he looked over his fence and he went, "Michael, what you doing?" And he returned home from holiday a week early, and I got absolutely caned for it. So that's where the paintball guns all came from. Then the lads all started getting them and shooting each other's houses. So we had a right good laugh.
The former Sunderland, Leeds and Carlisle United forward Michael Bridges is our guest on the show tonight. Michael, just taking you back to those early days with Carlisle United, I think it took you about 3 games to get your first goal for the club. Can you remember who it was against? Can you remember much about it?
Oh, now you are testing. You are killing me here. Let's have a think.
It was another game where I was knocked out again.
Oh, come on and give us another clue.
It was away from home against a team who are no longer in existence.
You'll never get it, man. Useless.
It was Bury.
Rushton away, 4-0.
Oh.
Can you remember that?
I can, yes. I can. Bloomin' heck, yes.
Rushton and Diamonds,
Wow.
little left foot slot, I think.
Was your mate Drew Broughton playing in that game?
My mate Drew Broughton.
He was the one, honestly.
Mate, isn't it?
Yeah, Lummy's mate.
Everyone tells him, doesn't it? In the return game, and everyone's got a Kev Gray story. It's every week, but in the tunnel before, we're playing Rushton and Diamonds, and they were down the bottom, and we were flying high. And for some reason, Drew Broughton was shouting down the tunnel, "Lay it on the big man Gray, lay it on old man Gray, and I'll do the rest." So Kev's just stared at him, not said a word, and I'm biting up, giving him a little bit. And then 33 seconds into the game, I think we've swung a corner in, and Derek Holmes has scored. Anyway, we've went in to win 5-0, and Drew Broughton's had the most horrendous game ever. Kev's put him everywhere, threw him around, and we had the Drew Broughton award every time someone played. We had a weekly award of the worst trainer. You got the yellow t-shirt, it had the Drew Broughton award, and it's just another case of someone going up against Kev Gray that season and coming off last.
I'll tell you what, I hated even training against Kev Gray. Murph was a great player when he got the ball, so my idea and tactics in training were every time we've got the ball and I'm playing against Kev Gray, if we were doing like an attacking session against the back four, he'd have Kev Gray and Murph, or Murph would be playing the left back slot, and I'd always try and just keep away from Kev Gray because I knew he was going to kick you or headbutt you or elbow you or punch you because he was just an animal. And then when they got the ball, you used to always stand on the other centre half and allow Kev to have it because he couldn't pass water out his you know what.
Yeah.
Bless him. But he was just a cracking man that you wanted in your team.
one game I remember particularly, I think it only took you 10 games to get your hat-trick, your first hat-trick for the club, which was away 5-0 at Boston United. The reason I remember it is because that night we were listening to the commentary, and when you got your hat-trick, my wife went into labour with our first child, Louis, and I think it was all the excitement of those goals flying in which sent her into labour. You must have some good memories of that night in particular.
Oh, I certainly do. You know, the fondest one about that was I actually went to take a free kick, and I still don't know whether it was my goal or not, but I'm claiming it. Can you remember that one, Lummy?
Aye.
It was funny. I couldn't wait just to get in the bus to prove, because Carl Hawley was trying to claim it. I was like, "You're not taking my hat trick away from me, lad." So there was one dodgy goal in that, but it was just it was a great result. And the one that stood out for me, I mean, my left foot was really just for standing on. I could always take a little bit of a touch, but I was blessed with the right foot. The left foot that night at Boston, I just hit this ball on the volley, and it went bottom corner, far corner, and I thought that's the hat trick. I'm gonna have to keep replaying that to see what I did, so I can try and replicate that. And sadly, I never was able to with the left foot. But it was a great night, and obviously there's people that keep the stories from them nights, and that is just great to hear that you about your family and having a child off the back of a hat trick. So thank you very much.
All down to you, Bridgie. Obviously, I mean, around that time we mentioned the 4-0 at Rushden and the 5-0 at Boston, and you were hammering teams. I think you had a 4-0 against Bury in between that, and then there was the 5-0 against Chester, the 5-0 away at Darlington as well. What was it like to playing a team that were just levels above opposition teams at that point?
Do you know, the team was very well balanced. We had we had players that knew their roles in the team. Like I was saying before, you knew if you were going to be on the bench, you're going to get an opportunity, but there was no malice about it. We had a bit of everything. When you've got somebody like Lummy on the ball in midfield, you know there's going to be passes coming towards you. You know we're going to control that midfield. We had a Simon Hackney out on the wing that, if he could run 100 mile an hour, he could run 110 mile an hour. He was just absolutely lightning. So there's a lot of times I used to get the ball and just put it as far in the left-hand corner as I could, because you know he would get there. But the hardest part was trying to actually get in the box for the cross, because you were still 20 metres behind him. So here it was just his game. It was just so well balanced. We could control games with passing, and if we had to change it up and get nasty, we could do that. And you see them high score lines. The one for me stands out against Darlington. We created so many chances. It was if we can get the fullbacks bombing on and support the wingers. We used to have the two centre halves would stay and one of the midfielders would sit. So we had that defensive nous about us with 3 or 4 just sitting back while the rest of the team went forward. And I just remember so many opportunities coming and chances, and we were very, very dangerous from set plays as well. So it's credit. You've got to credit Simo with the recruitment and the way he had us playing as well. Him and Dennis. And the lads embraced it, but nobody was going to beat us for a winning mentality. And like I say, just the chances that were created, it was tremendous to be a striker playing. It got me the confidence to believe that I was a footballer again.
As you say that, you're going in about formations and things like that, and I think it's no secret of the fact that you had a good chat about this job. You came over, the Carlisle job, just before Chris Beach got it. David Holdras alluded to it and alluded to the fact a lot of times that you came across very well, and even to the fact that if you lived in England, even if it wasn't the manager's job, he'd definitely want you part of the club. So that must be encouraging that from starting out your managerial career, that you're interviewing so well for let's face it, a big job in League Two.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I've gone through my badges over here, since retirement. It's always funny when you retire from football. I didn't know where it was going to take us. I call it Spaghetti Junction. All I've known for 20 years of my life playing is football. And all I knew for the 15 years before that, before I was the age of 5, from 5 onwards, was football. And, so your knowledge is absolutely vital. You know the game inside out from a playing perspective. And you think, where am I going to go afterwards? Some players, some people go into businesses, some people go into coaching, some go into media, and some lose their way until they find it. And I was at a crossroads where I was doing 6 or 7 things. And I went back to coach with the club that I'd finished with, the Newcastle Jets in the Hyundai E-League, and did the youth team for 2 years. Really enjoyed, loved the coaching because you were passing on knowledge. I was mentoring the kids. You're passing on your education, and it was learning how to get, how to not think that you were still a player. So you've got to get your message across in ways that they understand, whether it's using, your PowerPoints or you're presenting or you're drawing. and you can't lose the attention span. It was a learning curve for 2 years and really enjoyed it, and then went into an assistant role with the football club. And, I could have really saw myself going on to kick on. Unfortunately, things happened with the chairman where the players and coaches weren't getting paid, and I resigned and fell out of love with the game for a year. But being through all the badges again, and you're still doing the media and analysing games and watching football all around the world. And in the last 2 years, like you say, gone back into coaching in Australia here, and the opportunity came to. The only thing that would bring me back to the UK would be the coaching opportunities, and I'd had a couple of chats with a few clubs the season before, but never really gone over for an interview. And like you say, the Carlisle opportunity came up, and I was on the flight as quick as possible to come and present and show them what I had to offer. Because you're so far away. You live in Australia. People think that you're not paying any attention to football. People don't know what you're doing, but it's all that's in our blood. It's all that we live out for, And it was great to actually sit down with Holdsworth and talk about the club, talk about the players. Because the week before I went and done a bit of research. I'd gone to Sunderland. I'd gone and seen Elliot Dickman at Sunderland Academy and had a chat with them about who potentially. I didn't tell them what was going on, but I was having a chat saying, who's available for loan if there was any clubs came in for the January window. I went in, had a chat with Newcastle United, seeing who was available for loan. So I was preparing and get myself ready to go in and speak to the club and say, if you're losing this one, we can get loan players from this club. And I've got my connections with Middlesbrough as well, with Johnny Woodgate. So all that was developing, mate, and I was just sat down, had a really good chat with the football club, and I was happy to actually be able to sit down, present, and show them what I was able to do. And I was just to prove that I was ready and wanting to have a go. And also to try and get the fan base back as well, mate. And like I say, the club, it didn't happen, but it was a great learning experience about going forward and where I go from there.
Does that remain an ambition of yours, a hope of yours somewhere down the line, Bridgie, that you will be able to come back to Brunton Park maybe as a manager one day?
Oh, listen, football's a funny game. You never know where you're going to be from one week to the next month. And a year in football is a hell of a long time. So I would like to think one day I will grace Brunton Park once again. When that is, who knows? But it's just something, that place and Carlisle United. It's something that they give me an opportunity many years ago as a player. It got me back in the football career, and I got to move back to Hull City. So again, it would just be nice to think that it was possible. It could be possible. But again, football, you just never know what's going to happen in the world. But like you say, I wouldn't have gotten that flight and come all the way over if I didn't feel I was ready to give it my best crack, and also just to give back to Carlisle, to give them something.
A lot of United fans got in touch with us when we said you were going to be on the show tonight. Eddie Williams said one of the classiest players to play for us. There have been others, but he's right up there. Aldi as well on Twitter won us the league that year. We would have gone up, but he made us champions. Martin as well, my all-time favourite Carlisle player, absolutely unreal. Should have been nowhere near League Two, Martin said. And Paul Bryson on Twitter said the fact we signed him was quite unbelievable. Because of that, and the United fans took to you so well, Bridgie, how difficult a decision was it for you, sort of heart over head, to make that move to Hull City?
It was tough because I was enjoying playing football, and I knew I was, had an opportunity to start games. But the move came about because it was in a higher division, and there was a chance of getting back to that Championship, and if not the Premier League, to play there. So you always want to play at the highest level that you can. And looking back, should I have gone? No, I shouldn't. I should have stayed and enjoyed my football. But I saw the limelight again. I saw the divisions the higher up and the opportunity to go there. Phil Parkinson was the manager at the time that signed me, and it was a very similar scenario why I ended up coming to Carlisle from the previous time at Bristol City. Parkinson didn't last that long, a bit like what happened with Tinian at Bristol City, and a new manager came in, and that was Phil Brown. And it's incredible to think how managers come in can dictate your future, and we did make it to the Premier League, but I didn't get anywhere near the game time that I would have enjoyed. I was playing under Parkinson. I remember scoring a lovely goal down at Leicester City to get Hull a valuable win because they were near the relegation zone at that time. But it was something I couldn't turn down. But looking back in hindsight, I should have stayed exactly where I was.
So coming towards the end now, but just want to not fire a few questions, just ask you, supporters like to hear these things. We've asked Kieran Westwood, we've asked Glenn Murray, just a couple of The best player you've played against in any level, when you've just thought that's just a completely different level altogether. And don't be modest. We've played in some really big games, and we want to know who it is.
So can I start dropping a few names, can I?
You can start dropping a few names. You've proved in the rest of the interview you're not massive time.
Well, listen, this is where your name is never going to get mentioned ever again until the end of this interview, because we're going to talk about quality players here now. So what it is, Lummy, we've got I'm actually sitting in my lounge now, looking up at me wall. I've got one shirt that stands out for us, and it's an AC Milan shirt, and that game was in the Champions League. And you talk about when you're a kid, there's places you want to play. San Siro is one of them, but obviously it was at Elland Road, but it was against a team like AC Milan, and I'd watched them and admired them for years, watching football Gaza on Channel 4, whatever it was. It was just incredible. So to actually play against them and stand in the tunnel next to players like Shevchenko was playing for them, Bierhoff, and then you work your way down the team, and you stood next to Maldini and Costa Curta, who are marking you on the park. Lummy, I never got a touch of the ball against Maldini because we had Harry Kewell and me playing up front. Harry Kewell with his left foot gave us the balance, so he played more as a little bit of a tucked-in left-side player that night, so he was on Costa Curta. And Maldini was on the left side centre-half, and I was playing up against him with my right foot. So I never got a touch for the first 60 minutes of the game, and I'll never forget, mate, I tried to blag something, and I looked over to the bench to O'Leary, and I was pretending I was getting instructions. And I ran over to Harry Kewell and went, the gaffer wants us to swap over sides, so you go up against Maldini. And I totally lied. I just wanted to get on the ball because I could not get a touch off Maldini, mate. He read the game so smartly. It was incredible to witness, mate. Everywhere he let you go into positions on the field where he still knew that he had you by his positioning, so you could still get a touch, but he'd be there within an instant. He never had to slide in. It was just unbelievable to witness how good he was, mate. So I never won an aerial battle. I never got past him, and it wasn't until Harry Kewell got wrong off Eddie Gray, the assistant manager, after 5 minutes, saying, "What are you doing standing over there?" When he said, "Well, Bridgie told us you wanted to swap." He went, nah, get back. And I got wrong after the game. But we actually won that game 1-0, so it stands out for many, many reasons, mate. But Maldini, without a shadow of a doubt.
Best, I think I know what you're going to say. You've mentioned him a few times. Best player you've played with? Would it be Harry Kewell?
Yeah, it is. It isn't. It isn't. There's I put Harry Kewell up there because of what he could do on the field and what he did off the field. He was a true professional, and Harry could glide past players, a bit like Ryan Giggs. It was poetry in motion, and he could win a game single-handedly. Some of the stuff you witnessed him do with his left foot was brilliant, and it didn't just happen. He had a gift, but he worked at it. But there was one other player. There was a guy, Mark Viduka, came and joined us from Celtic, and I saw him for a week in training, and there's nothing worse than admitting defeat. And we signed him, and I thought, well, I ain't going to play anymore because this guy is unbelievable. He's strong. With his back to goal, he can flick it off. He can hold the ball up. He just had absolutely everything. But the difference between him, I reckon Mark Viduka could have been and should have been one of the best players, if not the best player in the world, because he scored 4 goals against Liverpool single-handedly. But what you wouldn't get with Mark, he would be the last one in to train. He would be the first one to leave. He didn't practice. It was just a natural ability that he never embraced. And we would probably see him beat a team like Liverpool with 4 goals and get us the win, and then you wouldn't see him for 4 games. Yeah. And I look back and think it was such a waste of a talent, but when you see his actual career, it wasn't. But I just think where he could have actually been. So Mark Viduka for me.
Just going back to your time with Carlisle, Bridgie, as well, who would you say was maybe the most underrated player? Was there a player in those teams you played alongside at Carlisle United who maybe didn't get the recognition they deserved?
Oh, that's a great question. And I mean, Kev Gray got recognition because he was a powerhouse. Murph was admired because he was the captain. We had Westy in goal, was just learning his trade. Lummy, the fans loved him and embraced him, so he wasn't underrated.
Siebes?
Chris Billy. I would say Billy. I think the fans really they did. That's a good answer, Lummy. I was looking at Simon Hackney, but I was thinking the fans did embrace him. He had the pace, but Simon also did the work defensively. But Siebes, I would say, he's midfield. What he did, he didn't have. I mean, if you ask Siebes to do 10 keepy-ups, he wouldn't be able to do it. But if you ask him to win the ball back and give it to a player that could do it, he would do that. So you could break defence, break the attacks down. And I think it was some of the comments that I used to hear coming from the fans towards him at certain points. I used to think, wow, that's very harsh. So yeah, that's a good call.
Dennis Booth, we always talk about Dennis Booth and the dynamics in the dressing room, and he was a great kind of offset to Paul Simpson's character as well. What was Boothie like to be a part of in that dressing room?
Oh, he was the dressing room, and you know what, they had the yin and yang kind of thing going on. Simo had a bit of banter when he needed to lighten the mood, but he was, when he was on, he was switched on. He would get you working. And Boothie had that, and the way they used to balance that off was very, very clever. And Boothie, like I say, he just loved the banter. He loved having a good laugh and a joke. He always had the dad jokes. He loved it when myself, Lummy and Arno were having a laugh and a joke. He would always try and get himself involved. And there's nothing better than having an assistant manager that you feel the door is open. You can go and speak to him at any time that you want. I think a lot of coaches and players that go into coaches' roles and management roles forget what made them feel wanted and respected as a player. And you get a lot of coaches that will shut the door and they'll treat you and they'll try and dictate you, or you can be the guy that embraces it, and you've got that fine line and the balance. But you've got to know your players. You've got to know what they're thinking, and they want to come and enjoy training. They don't want to turn up and have to go through the rigmarole or the same scenario all the time. You've got to enjoy and embrace what you do. And Boothie and Simo made that happen. In that carpool driving over, we were excited for going to training. Now there's clubs I've played at when I've been thinking, oh Christ, I've got to go and train today with this. I know exactly what we're going to do. I know exactly where we're going to be doing it, and the monotony. So Boothie was just absolutely brilliant, and I love the character of the man. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way, this talk?
No, it's live on the radio.
Well, it was so funny. Dennis always used to ask us for a pair of, I'll use the word crappy pair of football boots, because he used to have these football boots that had holes in them all over the place. And he used to see my delivery from Adidas, where I used to get 4 or 5 pairs of boots every few weeks, and they'd drop them off, and Boothie would say, have you got a pair of boots for Zebridge? He said, mine are really crappy and old. I said, oh yeah, I'll get you some. And I'd always forget, so what I did, I got a brand new pair of the football boots, put them on, and then I put my oldest pair possible, I think from the days in 1999 to 2000, a pair of Umbro Specials, which there was no laces in, there was holes cut out of them that the lads had cut the Umbro signs out, and I put them in the Adidas box, and I put them under his peg. And just to see the old man's face when he came in from training, I said, Dennis, I've remembered I've put your pair of crappy old boots under your peg, mate, and I just give him a wink as much as say there's a brand new pair there. So bless him, he saw the Adidas box, and when he opened them up, they were just the crappiest pair of boots. And I said, well, that's what you asked for, mate.
Well, Guy, also while we got you on as well, just before we wrap up, Bridgie, what a lot of Carlisle fans might not realise is you were responsible for Chris's nickname during your time at the club.
Oh, be careful,
Ginger Pan Face.
Oh,
Ginger Pan Face.
Yeah, well, and it's Lummy almost looks like one of them guys, right? I'll never forget when we used to play at Sunderland together. He was the lad I used to look at, bless him. He's got the bright ginger hair, so straight away you've got an angle of approach where you can get at him and you can give him a bit of stick. But Lummy laughed it off and he got on with it, and then we're going, right, where can we go with this? And one of the lads said, well, it looks like somebody's got a frying pan and just hit him in the face, but his face is so flat, and that just stuck. That was it, Ginger Pan Face.
Hey, I got this pan face though. I got this pan face going in for challenges in the 90 minutes trying to get us up the pitch. Well, you just swanned around and waited at the last minute to put the ball in the net and walked off the hero. This is why me and Siebes look like the way we do.
Mate, that was the amount of times you got wrong in the house off your mother because you used to do nothing. She used to get that pan out and just smash it with it. That's what it was. Goes back to your childhood.
Chris, what did you used to call Bridgie?
Germ, and that's all I'm keeping it at. There's too many stories. I could absolutely kill him.